There is a number I want you to hold in your mind before I say anything else. Two cities. Not one city struck twice, not one city struck, and then another hours later. 2 cities at the exact same moment, on the same night, under the same sky, Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. Simultaneously, the defense systems over both cities fired. The defense systems over both cities failed. The missiles over both cities hit their targets. And by the time the sun rose this morning, Israel had experienced something it had never faced before in its history. Not just a failure of defense, but a failure of the entire idea that defense was still possible. Stay with me for the next 15 minutes, because this is not just a recap of what happened last night. You can find that anywhere. What I'm going to show you is how this night was built, week by week, decision by decision, strike by strike, starting from February 28. Because this morning did not happen suddenly. This morning was the destination. And if you understand how Iran navigated toward it, you will understand something that most analysis today will completely miss. The real question is no longer, what just happened? The real question is, what has Iran already planned next? Let's go back to the beginning of this conflict, not because it's old history, but because everything that happened last night was already written in those early days. On February 28, when the first Iranian strikes began, the public conversation in both the United States and Israel followed a familiar pattern. Iran fires, Israel intercepts, the US strikes back at launch sites, Iran absorbs the cost, and eventually de-escalates. This model wasn't unreasonable. It had worked before, imperfectly, but consistently, across past escalations. The core assumption was simple. Iran's ability to sustain attacks would weaken faster than Israel's ability to defend. That assumption was wrong, not slightly wrong, completely wrong, structurally wrong. And the proof is visible in every step Iran took between February 28 and now. The first move Iran made was not targeting cities, it targeted radar systems. And this is critical to understand, because radar sounds technical, easy to ignore, but if you ignore it, you miss the most important decision of this entire conflict. The over-the-horizon radar network built and operated by the United States in the region was not just detection equipment. It was the nervous system of Israel's entire air defense. The moment a missile launched from Iran, those systems detected it, tracked its path, calculated impact points, and gave Israeli defense systems maximum time to respond. Without those radars, everything slows down. Everything becomes less accurate. Coordination breaks down. The aero systems at the top layer, David's sling in the middle, Iron Dome at the lower level. All of them began operating with reduced efficiency, shorter timelines, less precise data, weaker coordination. Iran destroyed those radar systems within the first 72 hours. And from that moment on, Israel's defense system didn't stop working, but it started operating at a permanent disadvantage. No redistribution of interceptors could fully fix it. No tactical adjustment could reverse it. Then came the second phase. Slower, more calculated, more dangerous. Iran began firing in waves. Not massive waves meant to overwhelm instantly, but controlled waves designed to force Israel to respond again and again. Every wave cost interceptors. Every interceptor used was one less available. And here's the key problem. Interceptors cannot be replaced as fast as they are used. So, night after night, the stockpile declined. Consumption rose faster than replenishment, and eventually they reached a critical threshold. The point where defense coverage is no longer reliable. The night the threshold was crossed over Tel Aviv was the night this conflict changed permanently. Not because one attack succeeded, but because it proved something deeper. The system was being drained by design. And it didn't happen in one dramatic moment. It happened slowly, quietly, across dozens of nights, easy to manage publicly, easy to describe as under control, but the reality was different. The public was told to shelter. Sirens sounded, missiles came. and the gap between promise and reality became impossible to ignore. After the first uncontested strike on Tel Aviv, Iran made its most revealing decision. It did not pause. It did not give time to recover. It kept firing, at a pace designed to prevent recovery. The second strike confirmed it. This was not a one-night failure. It was structural. Then came a new layer: the introduction of advanced weapons like maneuvering re-entry vehicles, designed specifically to defeat remaining defenses. And then Jerusalem was hit. This changed everything, because now it wasn't just one city. It proved that the threat had expanded, that no major location was outside the operational reach. After that strike, the Israeli leadership under Benjamin Netanyahu made a rational decision. They concentrated their remaining defenses over the Tel Aviv-Jerusalem corridor. Protect the most important targets. Use what remains, where it matters most. It was the right decision, given the situation. But Iran saw it, analyzed it, understood it, and calculated something critical. Even combined, those defenses were not enough. So Iran executed the next phase, a coordinated dual strike, Tel Aviv and Jerusalem at the same time. The attack packages were different, customized. Tel Aviv received high-speed, high-volume strikes. Jerusalem received trajectory-based attacks designed to defeat high-altitude interception. The result? The same in both cities. Interceptors fired, but failed to stop most of the incoming threats. Civilians followed instructions. They went to shelters. They trusted the system. And still, the impacts happen. Now there is a question that cannot be avoided. What does the government tell its people when the system they trusted no longer guarantees safety? Because after multiple strikes, after simultaneous impact on both cities, people are no longer relying on statements. They are counting. For Netanyahu, this moment represents more than a military setback. It represents the collapse of the narrative. A campaign described as quick and decisive cannot include simultaneous strikes on two major cities. That narrative no longer holds. What remains is a leader facing pressure, militarily, politically, and internationally, from Washington, from within his own country, from the reality on the ground. For the United States, the situation raises a critical question. What changes now? Because billions have already been spent. Strikes have already been carried out. And yet, Iran's capabilities remain largely intact. The situation has not been reversed. It has evolved. Oil prices are rising. The Strait of Hormuz is affected. Global markets are reacting, and allies are hesitating. For Iran, this was not improvisation. This was execution. A plan built in phases: radar destruction, interceptor depletion, advanced weapon introduction, forcing defensive concentration, then executing a dual strike. Step by step, this was not reaction, it was design. And that leads to the most important realization. If this phase was planned, then the next phase is already planned too. It was not created last night. It was created alongside everything that led to it. So now the question is no longer about the past. It is about what comes next. How far does this go? Does it move toward negotiation or toward escalation? What does winning even mean now? Because whatever it meant on February 28, it doesn't mean the same thing anymore. What is clear is this: every decision maker involved is now facing reality, the gap between expectation and outcome, and deciding what to do next. Because the next step will determine whether this ends or becomes something much larger. And that decision is being made right now, while the world watches.